Hey there, folks. After a hiatus away from Skyrim, Eldergleam, a newer-ish mod list from Captain Panda, has once again intrigued me back into the fray. What I've discovered in my time with the Eldergleam mod list is that it satisfies two unique player demographics simultaneously. Those who want to play the game with a modern coat of paint, and those that want a decent mod base to build upon and customize further. Admittedly, I started my most recent Skyrim journey expecting, possibly even hoping, to take what Captain Panda had assembled and simply play through the core game. And then Skyrim did what Skyrim does, and I found myself adding mods, editing config files, modifying load orders, etc. Thus perpetuating the Skyrim circle of life. In this video, I'll demonstrate how I approach the installation of the mod list, cover a few basic troubleshooting steps I commonly encounter, and show the small configuration changes I like to make for the part of me that wants to play and the part of me that wants to mod a little further. All credit for the curation and assembly of the mods in the Eldergleam mod list goes to Captain Panda. Like the Empire, I love making my lists. The installation process for Eldergleam has four main steps: base game installation, Skyrim Anniversary Edition paid content download, Wabbajack setup, and finally Modlist installation. Of course, the fifth optional step would be getting into ModOrganizer and customizing the experience further. It takes about 360 gigabytes of total space to install Eldergleam, so I segment the installation steps across a few different SSDs. On the C drive is where the Steam application files are. Outside of this being where Steam lives, the C drive doesn't play a part in the installation process. The D drive is where the primary Steam library is located. This is where I'll install the base game from Steam. Additionally, the final Eldergleam mod list will also be installed to the D drive. The E drive is where we'll install the Wabbajack application, and where the mod source files will be downloaded. As part of the stock game functionality of Wabbajack, the Skyrim game files will be copied from the Steam library into the mod list folder, leaving a pristine, as gotten from Steam, source installation of Skyrim on the D drive. I'll open Steam and navigate to Library, and then Home. I separate all my games into collections based on the first letter of the title, so I'll expand the E collection, select Elder Scrolls Skyrim Special Edition, and then click Install. My personal preference is to create the desktop shortcut, but decline to create the Start menu shortcut. I'll select the D drive for the installation target and click the Install button. Now we'll wait until the main game finishes downloading from Steam. Once it's finished downloading, I'll right-click on the game name in the left pane and click Properties. First, I'll click the slider to disable the Steam overlay while in-game. Some folks have indicated that to properly utilize an ENB in Skyrim, the Steam overlay must be disabled. I have never personally found that to be true, I just don't like the Steam overlay, so I disable it as part of normal game installation routines. Next, I'll click the Updates tab and set the Automatic Updates option to only update this game when I launch it. This setting is more important, as it prevents Steam from automatically updating the source Skyrim game files when there is an update. Once Eldergleam is installed, the game will be launched through Skyrim Script Extender via ModOrganizer using the copied Steam files. So, in effect, the game will, as far as Steam is concerned, never be launched, thus keeping the installation files in the Steam library folder pristine. Now I'll click the Controller tab and set the Override option to disable Steam input. I have a love-hate relationship, minus the love, for Steam's handling of controllers, so I disable this option for every single game that doesn't require it to function. Lastly, I'll click on the DLC tab to ensure that the paid Skyrim Anniversary Upgrade DLC is checked. This DLC is a prerequisite for the Eldergleam install, so make sure you've purchased it and that it's checked here. With those settings tweaked, I'll close the Skyrim Properties window. While it is not an explicit requirement to have the creation kit to install Eldergleam, since I end up modifying game files as part of my own modding, I always install the creation kit along with the base game. Since the free creation kit is not added to your library when you purchase the main game, if it's not in your library, navigate back to the store page, search for Skyrim Special Edition Creation Kit, open the product page, and then click Play Now to add it to your library. I do already have the creation kit tagged to my Steam account, so I'll click back over to my library, scroll down to and expand the S collection, select Skyrim Special Edition Creation Kit, and then click Install. For the install options, I'll make sure Create a Start menu shortcut is deselected, select the D drive for installation target, and then click Install. Once the installation is finished, I'll right-click the Creation Kit name in the left Library pane, disable the Steam overlay in the General tab, click the Updates tab and set Automatic Updates to only update this game when I launch it, click the Controller tab and set the override to disable Steam Input, out of habit because I just don't like Steam Input, and then close the Creation Kit Properties window. We're now done with Steam, so I'll close the application window and move on to what I consider to be the most frustrating step in the process, getting the Skyrim Anniversary paid content downloaded. I'll double-click the Steam desktop shortcut, which will cause Steam to install the Visual C and DirectX Redist files automatically if they haven't already been installed. With this being the first time the game has been loaded, the Skyrim launcher will perform a video detection step. These settings aren't going to be used, so I'll click OK to close the Detecting Video Hardware pop-up, and then click OK again when it tells me what quality profile has been selected. On the title screen, Bethesda will thank me profusely for purchasing the Anniversary Edition, so I'll respond in kind by clicking the download button to initiate the acquisition of the paid-for content. There's north of 70 total pieces of content, so I'll let the download operation continue as long as it's willing. Let me say that this step rarely results in all of the correct files being downloaded. I've had the game tell me everything was downloaded, and it downloaded 5 total items. And yet I've also had it actually download everything successfully. I'll let the step complete and then see what cleanup needs to be done. Once the game believes the downloads to be complete, I'll be prompted to reload the game and incorporate the newly acquired files in the load order, so I'll click OK to do that. After the reload is finished, I like to click into the Creations menu, and then click Options, and then click Download All Owned Creation Club Creations. When prompted, click Yes, and wait for any additional items to be downloaded. Click Options again, and then click Download All Creations in my library. When prompted, click Yes. While it would seem like everything would have been downloaded from the main menu, I've had items be missed, and then they are caught by clicking these two options in the Creations menu. Now I'll click back in the Creations menu, Quit on the main menu, and Yes when asked to quit to the desktop. Oftentimes, performing all 3 of those steps doesn't catch everything. To address that, I wrote a small application that validates the presence of all the current Anniversary Edition content in the data folder in the game's installation directory. I'll run that and it will pick up the installation directory of Skyrim from the registry and then scan for the listed files. This time it looks like everything was downloaded except for the Alternative Armor's Dragon Plate files. Knowing what files are missing, I'll reload Skyrim from the desktop shortcut and click Play on the launcher. From the main menu, I'll click Creations, search for Alternative Armor's Dragon Plate, click the image, click the download button, click Yes, and I've met with another common irritation in the Creations menu. At least for me, individual mods will often inform me that the Bethesda servers aren't reachable. When this happens, I will click Continue, click the Creations menu again, click Options, and click Download All Owned Creation Club Creations. And now, for whatever reason, it will download the one item I'm missing, the Alternative Armor's Dragon Plate. The game now believes all my own creations have been downloaded, so I'll click Continue, click Escape or Back to exit the Creations menu, click OK to reload the new content, and then click Quit to exit to the desktop. I'll reload the Anniversary Edition content validator, click Scan, and finally, all the Anniversary Edition content the game has to offer now resides on my computer. There are a number of other ways to experience the worst of what the Creations menu has to offer, including mods that need updates but won't, or updates that will re-download over and over again. This is about the best that can be done for now. Later on in the process, Wabbajack will not hesitate to inform us if there are file mismatches, so let's move forward with the installation. Now that we have the Anniversary content and the base game ready to go, let's quickly open the game's data folder at d/steam/steamapps/common/Skyrim Special Edition/data. At this stage, we currently have 176 files and folders in the data folder. To prepare the Creation Kit, I'll double-click the desktop shortcut, and when prompted, click Yes on the script extraction operation. I'll let this run to completion, and now if we take a look at the data folder, there are 2 new entries, bringing the total count to 178 items. After the Creation Kit's object window loads, the app is ready, and I'll click the X button to close it. This completes all the tasks to acquire the Anniversary paid content. Let's move on to the third step, the Wabbajack setup. I'll open a browser and navigate to wabbajack.org. On the main page, I'll click the Download button and save the application exe to the desktop. There are 2 prerequisite packages that need to be installed for Wabbajack to function. For simplicity, I'm going to copy and paste those links to make them easy to download. The two links I'm using will be in the description. I'll close the browser window and install both Redis packages that were downloaded, one at a time. Once both are finished, I'll restart the computer. Back in Windows, I'll delete both Redis packages, and then I'll double-click this PC on the desktop, navigate to the E drive, and finally create a folder named Wabbajack. I'll now move the downloaded Wabbajack application exe into this folder. Upon running the application for the first time, Wabbajack will search for application files, download the newest version into a subfolder of the Wabbajack main exe folder with a name of the version downloaded. In this case, the name of the folder is 3.7.2.1, representative of the Wabbajack version that was just downloaded. From this point forward, we'll use the wabbajack.exe file in the 3721 folder as opposed to the wabbajack.exe file in e:/wabbajack. The next step is to authorize your Nexus account through Wabbajack. Click the settings sprocket in the upper right corner, then click Login next to Nexus Mods. When the inbuilt browser window loads, enter your username and password and click Login. When prompted, click Authorize, and now the authorization successful screen will ask you to click Continue right before it closes the window automatically. With our Nexus account linked, we can click the back button in Wabbajack to return to the home screen. Wabbajack works by processing a mod list, so we need to acquire the Eldergleam mod list. I'll open a browser and perform a run-of-the-mill Google search for Skyrim Eldergleam. We want the Nexus Mods link, so I'll click that entry in the search results. On the Nexus Mods page, I'll click the Files tab, and then for the Eldergleam NG Full CC option, click the Manual Download button, and then the Download button. I'll place the zip file on the desktop. After it's fully downloaded, I'll close the browser window. Next, I'll double-click the Eldergleam zip file on the desktop, and drag the Eldergleam Wabbajack file from the zip file onto the desktop, and then close the zip archive window. Before executing the Modlist install, I like to manually create the folders for the temp and destination files. First, I'll click back over to the already open Wabbajack folder, navigate up the directory tree until I reach the root of the E drive, and create a new folder named Eldergleam Temp. As you'll recall from my description earlier, this is where the source mod files will be downloaded. I'll close the E drive Explorer window, and then double-click this PC on the desktop, navigate to the D drive, and create a new folder named Skyrim Eldergleam. This is where the source mod files will be unpacked to, and the base Steam game files copied to. Now I'll close the D drive Explorer window. That completes all of the Wabbajack setup steps. Next up is to install the Eldergleam mod list. On the Wabbajack home screen, I'll click Install from Disk, click the ellipsis in the Target mod list text box, and then select the Eldergleam Wabbajack file on the desktop. Then I'll click the ellipsis in the Modlist installation location, navigate to the D drive, double-click the Skyrim Eldergleam folder we just created, and then click the Select Folder button. You'll notice how Wabbajack automatically filled in the resource download location as a subdirectory of the Modlist installation. I do not want this folder to be used, but rather the temp files folder we created on the E drive. I'll click the ellipsis, navigate to the E drive, double-click the Eldergleam temp folder, click the Select Folder button, and now we're ready to install. To kick it off, I'll click the play button in the lower right corner of Wabbajack and wait for the install to complete. There are several steps between the file hashing, downloading, and unpacking. My experience with Wabbajack is that it goes largely unresponsive for the hashing step and partially so for the downloading process. All that's left to do is wait, so I'll check in a little bit later. It's been about 30 minutes and we're nearing the end of the Eldergleam installation process. Once the primary file extraction is complete, Wabbajack will proceed to the final Modlist file extraction, and finally to building the BSA files. After that, a few merge operations will occur, the Nexus Mods page will irritatingly open on its own again, we'll promptly close it, and we can see from the pulsating green box in Wabbajack that the installation was successful. Now we can click the Close button in the lower right corner of Wabbajack, and we are ready to either play or start tinkering with the Eldergleam install. But what if Wabbajack isn't successful? To show you what that can look like, I've deleted all of the Creation Club paid content and will rerun the Modlist file through Wabbajack. Pretty quickly, the process will error out and an HTML log will be displayed citing a ton of missing manual download files. There is also a file name reference provided if you felt like manually looking up over 150 different package names. Additionally, we can open the Wabbajack log file to get some insight into what might have went wrong. I'll close the browser window and click the Log Files button in the Wabbajack interface. The log file location can also be navigated to manually by clicking this PC on the desktop, click the E drive, then the Wabbajack folder, the Wabbajack version folder, and finally the logs folder. Opening the text file and scrolling to the bottom, we can see similar messages referencing missing game files. There are 3 scenarios that I've seen Wabbajack fail: the paid anniversary content not being reliably downloaded, the appropriate redist files not being installed prior to attempting a Modlist install, resulting in a textconv error in the Wabbajack log, and community mods being deleted, renamed, or updated on Nexus mods, and the Modlist not being explicitly updated to handle those changes. A rudimentary suggestion if this is the case is to manually acquire, rename, or otherwise futz with a source mod file, and then place it in the temp folder that Wabbajack downloads files to, and then attempt to rerun the Modlist install. This is kludgy at best, but something that can work in a pinch. There are certain to be other failure cases possible, but outside of these 3, I'd personally be looking at the Wabbajack help wiki if I were to encounter such an error. There are 4 primary modifications that I make to Windows and the ModOrganizer config before starting a playthrough or modding. Since I am using an NVidia GPU, the first modification is to change the default video output of being limited range RGB to full range RGB. To do that, I'll click the Windows Start button, type NVIDIA Control Panel, and click the app when it appears in the app list. When the control panel opens, I'll navigate to the Adjust Video Color Settings entry under the video header. Next, I'll select the ViewSonic monitor, as that's the primary monitor I'm using to make this video, and under the How do you make color adjustments, I'll click the radio button for with the NVIDIA settings, and then in the Advanced tab change the dynamic range method from limited to full. Then I'll click the Apply button in the lower right corner of the NVIDIA control panel. The intent of this setting is to utilize a wider gamut of color to avoid color clamping due to using a more limited range. In my experience with the hardware and monitors that I use, this setting can improve the richness and fullness of the output image, especially with certain E and B setting combinations. Your mileage may vary here for a variety of reasons, but for me, this is a set and forget operating system change. I'll close the NVIDIA control panel and proceed to the second modification, which is updating the Windows Pagefile allocation. Click the Windows Start button and search for View Advanced System Settings, and click it once it appears in the app list. From the Advanced tab, click the Settings button in the Performance section. Click the Advanced tab in Performance Options, then click the Change button in the Virtual Memory section. Uncheck Automatically Manage Paging File Size for all drives, and then click the Radio button for custom size. I prefer to specify the initial size setting of 10,000 megabytes, or 10 gigabytes, and the maximum size to 40,000 megabytes, or 40 gigabytes. This means that on Windows boot, 10 gigabytes of hard drive space will be reserved for the initial Pagefile allocation, and as applications require additional address space for all sorts of activities, the system may request an additional 30 gigabytes up to the total of 40 gigabytes. Once the values have been entered, click the Set button and then the OK button. You'll then be prompted to restart the system before the changes can take effect. I'll go ahead and restart now to get it out of the way. Bear in mind that the Pagefile is used for all sorts of system activities, and is not solely used when the system RAM is totally consumed. While other mod lists like Lorem and Nolvis are more explicit in their Pagefile requirements, Eldergleam is not. But this isn't a bad modification even outside of gaming, if you've got the space on an SSD for it to exist. The third modification is some basic setup and warning suppression in ModOrganizer. To open ModOrganizer, I'll click this PC on the desktop, navigate to the D drive, then into the Skyrim Eldergleam folder, and then double-click ModOrganizer.exe. This was the destination Eldergleam folder that was specified in the Wabbajack Modlist download. When ModOrganizer first loads, it will ask if you want to associate NXM links with Nexus mods. It's my preference to select No, Don't Ask Again, but choose as you see fit. I also prefer the standard Windows look to the interface, so I'll click Tools, Settings, Theme, and under Style select Windows, and then click OK. Since the game hasn't been launched yet, and I don't really want to keep coming into ModOrganizer once I get everything just how I want it, I'll first create a desktop shortcut to make it easier to start the game. I'll make sure SKSE is selected in the Run drop-down in the upper right corner, and then click the Shortcut button, followed by the Desktop option. This places the SKSE shortcut that loads the modded Skyrim on the desktop. I'll close ModOrganizer via the X in the upper right corner of the window, minimize the Eldergleam folder, and double-click the SKSE shortcut to load the game for the first time. As ModOrganizer is preparing the file structure and startup routines, do not click the Unlock button unless you love a broken game experience. After the main menu fully loads, I'll click New Game. When prompted, I'll skip the introduction and wait for the character creation menu to appear. Once it does, I'll create a throwaway character named Prisoner, and promptly click Escape on the keyboard, scroll down to quit, and finally exit to the desktop. Now I'll reload ModOrganizer by double-clicking modorganizer.exe in the Eldergleam install folder. If we look in the upper right corner after the first launch, ModOrganizer has highlighted 2 warning items. The first is that there are files in the overwrite directory, and SKSE has reported an incompatible plugin. We'll fix both of these. First, let's fix the overwrites. I'll scroll all the way down to the bottom of the installed mod list and double-click the overwrite entry. Here we can see that as part of game execution, several components of the modded game attempted to create new files. ModOrganizer, in an attempt to try and keep the game folders organized, designated these new files to be created in the overwrite category, as opposed to letting the mods create the files wherever they wanted to. There are a few different ways of dealing with this. One way is to just leave the files in overwrite and mentally deal with the warning sign in ModOrganizer. If you aren't going to be tinkering with or modding any further, there isn't any harm in just letting them be. My preferred way is to create new mods that house these individual files for cleanliness and to prevent that exclamation point in ModOrganizer from irritating my delicate sensibilities. First, I'll right-click on Overwrite, then go to All Mods, and then click on Create Separator above. For the name, I'll specify bracket, no delete bracket, output mods, and then click OK. No delete is effectively a tag that if I were to rerun the Modlist install in Wabbajack, would ensure that these mods are not deleted as part of that process. Now I'll create 7 mods, all prefixed with bracket, no delete bracket, output mod, and then the name of the output. There are 7 in total, and they are KI Loader, Create, MCM, ENB Cache, Shader Cache, SKSE, and Photo Mode. With those empty mods created, I'll double-click on Overwrite, and then drag the KI Loader folder to the KI Loader mod, drag the MCM folder to the MCM mod, drag the Create folder to the Create mod, drag the Shader Cache folder to the Shader Cache mod, drag the SKSE folder to the SKSE mod. Now I'll expand the root folder, select the ENB Cache folder and both text files, and drag those to the ENB Cache mod. Lastly, I'll expand the Textures folder and drag the Photo Mode folder onto the Photo Mode mod. Now I'll activate all 7 mods by checking them in the mod list, right-click Overwrite at the bottom of the mod list, click Clear Overwrite, and then click OK to recursively delete the remaining 2 empty folders. To validate these changes, I'll click the Run button in the upper right corner of ModOrganizer, click Create a New Game when the menu loads, skip the introduction, name myself Prisoner, and exit the game. Back in ModOrganizer, we can see that there are no new entries in Overwrite, so the redirection is happening as expected. Bear in mind that as new mods are added, there might be new files that need those sorts of pseudo-mods created to hold the files they create. The second item we'll address is ModOrganizer's warning that indicated SKSE failed to load a plugin, which after expanding the message indicates a DLL failed to load that is part of Open Animation Replacer with an error code of 1114. One thing to keep in mind is that even though we had to install redist files for Skyrim to run, additional redist files for Wabbajack to function, DLLs are built with .NET Target frameworks that differ from those installed thus far. In this case, all we have to do is download an additional Visual C redist package, install it, and now after we run the game again from ModOrganizer and exit, we can see that the error is no longer being reported, and there are no new entries in Overwrite. While this method isn't a fix-all for every DLL failing to load scenario, it is a solution in this instance. If no other avenue bears fruit, perform a Google search with the offending DLL name and the error code to see if any solutions make sense. That's going to do it for this video. This has been the entire end-to-end process I use when installing the Eldergleam mod list, and now it's ready to be played or modded further. In the next few days, I'll start to post each individual tweak I make to enhance the experience. from E&B settings to specific mod tweaks, and uninstalling mods that don't align with the experience I'm after. All that and more will be posted in my Eldergleam Tweaks playlist. In closing, a final shout out to Captain Panda for the assembly, curation, and ongoing maintenance of the Eldergleam mod list. I hope you've enjoyed this demonstration. Thanks for watching, and out.